Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be using the new Natasha Denona Retro palette. I just got this in the mail and I was so excited to sit down and use it. I'm going to be sharing two different eye looks with you, both using this palette. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Blair. I do all kinds of makeup related content here on my channel. I do some high-end and drugstore content as well. So if you love makeup and enjoy this type of video, definitely subscribe. I post 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So let's go ahead and get into the first eyeshadow look. Okay, we're gonna get right into it. So this is the new Natasha Denona Retro palette. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the specifics of the palette and all that because I know there's so many videos out already with people saying the same thing and I don't want it to be super redundant, but look at this palette, you guys. How pretty are these colors? Kind of went back and forth with whether or not I was going to buy this, but they had a pre-sale for this palette, or it wasn't really a pre-sale, it was like you could buy it a day early on the Sephora app, and that happened to fall on my birthday, so I caved and bought it. I'm just setting my eyelids with a little bit of powder. I already did my brows, obviously, and I used my NARS eyeshadow base on my eyes. Let me quickly swatch this for you and I'll insert the swatches here. Here they are swatched. I am not a good swatcher, but these colors are so beautiful. Even prettier swatched to me than they are in the palette. So I'm thinking now that I've swatched this palette, I might do part 1 of this today and then part 2 tomorrow and do a second look because I feel like I want to use all the shades in here and I know I'm not going to be able to use them all at one time. So I think today we'll do one look and then tomorrow we'll do another because I just have to use all the colors in here. It's so pretty. So we're going to go into this shade first, which is Nude Mauve. So it's a matte crease shade. It is kind of looks like a taupe to me, but it has a little bit of a purpley undertone. So I can see why they call it a mauve, but it's definitely pretty taupey, very pigmented. As you can see, I barely tapped into this color. I'm using this with my BK Beauty 201 brush. All right, next we're gonna go into this shade, which is Andy, and I'm gonna use my BK Beauty 202 brush, and we're gonna put this in the outer corner. I'm envisioning this look to be pretty purpley. This palette has a very purpley feel to it. I do have the mini retro palette and I know everyone's kind of been talking about the fact that the colors in here don't really match up that much with what you would think would be the medium-sized retro palette. Just the first one had a lot of the corals and almost a little bit of a green kind of vibe to it, whereas this one is very mauvey purpley when you look at it. But I love the color scheme personally. It doesn't really bother me that it looks different than maybe what people were thinking. Okay, now I'm gonna go into this really pretty matte plum purple, which is called Groove, and I'm gonna try to take a really small amount of this because I have a feeling this may be extremely pigmented. And I'm basically just gonna kind of tap it right at the outer right at the edge of my lash line, basically. I'm just kind of tapping it because I want it to stay right here. And then I'm gonna go back over it with my BK Beauty 202 brush. And the brush I just applied that groove shade was the Real Techniques shading brush. It's kind of a tiny little eyeshadow brush. I like to use a smaller brush like that for really pigmented shades to kind of lay the color where I want it to be, and then use my 201 or my 202 to kind of blend it out, which is what I'm doing now. So you get that purple there, but you can kind of diffuse it so it doesn't look really harsh. So Groove, that purple was a little harder to blend out. Sometimes I found purples or darker purples can be a little tricky to blend sometimes, but it does blend out. You just have to work with it a little bit. All right, I really want to use this shimmery purple. It's called Swing right here. Okay, I think I'm gonna try to use a brush, and I'm gonna spray the brush with MAC Fix Plus. I normally don't like it when I do this because I just feel like your finger for shades like this works the best, but we're gonna try it. So I'm getting a little bit of that Swing shade and basically kind of pressing that in the center and kind of brushing outward towards where we put that groove. Ooh, that purple is so pretty. Oh my gosh. That's very intense. Gonna have to blend that a little. So I'm taking my 202 brush again, and we're gonna kind of blend this out a little bit. Okay, yeah, I'm not loving that with that brush, so I'm gonna try doing it with my finger over here. Wow, okay. That is super, super pigmented. So I'm just kind of going over everything and trying to blend it a little bit better. I know it looks crazy, but we're gonna pull it all together here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back into Andy, which is this light purple here, and I'm gonna take the first brush that we used, which was the 201, which is the really large blending brush, and I'm gonna blend this some more. Okay, I'm gonna go in now with this shade up here. It's called Hello. I'm gonna put this not all the way to the inner corner, but pretty far in, and then kind of bring it over the top of that Swing shade. See how that kind of helped it blend a little bit better? Kind of like melded together with that Swing color. That color kind of looks like a silver almost, with a little bit of a purple undertone to it. It's pretty. I think I'm going to take this shade in the middle, which is Psychedelic. And we're gonna use this in the inner part of the lid. Oh yeah. So that's like a pink with glitter with like a purpley shift. Okay, and then I also want to take just a little bit of this shade, which is called Glitz. Looks like it's similar to Psychedelic, but it's a little more, not as chunky, glittery. So I'm just gonna pop this just in the middle. I'm gonna take a little bit of this shade right here. It's called Mod, and it looks white, but I don't think it's an actual white. It's kind of a little bit of a creamy white. And I'm just gonna pop a little bit of this under my brow. Okay, I actually think that's all I'm gonna do for this look. So I'm gonna do one more. Probably using more of these colors over here. So like these corally colors and this shimmer right here, and even this like grayish greeny color right here. That will be in the second look, but I like this so far. I'm gonna finish up the lower lash line, but I want to do the rest of my makeup first. So I'm gonna do that and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So let's do the lower lash line. Okay, so I'm thinking I am gonna take Groove and Swing. So the matte kind of plum and then the shimmery purple. And I'm gonna take just a little bit of both because I don't want to go like too overboard. And I'm just gonna lightly apply these. So one thing I will say about this palette, just based on my first time using it, I do not think this would be a great like beginner's palette. Just because purples in general, and I have found this to be true with this palette, are sometimes a little bit tricky to work with. They're just not the easiest colors to blend sometimes. So I'm going to go in with the nude mauve shade now, and I'm using like a bigger fluffy brush and just kind of blending that out a little bit, because a lot of these purples in here, when you put them on, even if you go in with like a really light hand, I feel like they can come off pretty harsh, and you have to kind of really blend them to kind of get that harshness to go away. Like you can see when I go over that, when I go over my lower lash line with this nude mauve shade, it kind of really diffuses that out a little bit. All right, so I think that's all I'm gonna do on the lower lash line, and then I'm gonna take this. This is the Urban Decay 24/7 eyeliner in Rockstar. It's a really dark purple. And I'm just putting this in my waterline. I'm not gonna put any liner on the lash line, I think. I feel like we don't really need it. Okay, so I'm gonna curl my lashes and do my mascara, and then I'll be back and we will finish up look number 1. Okay, so I finished my makeup, and I will list everything I have on my face in the description box if you're curious. And you guys, I mean, this is a beautiful palette. If you have green eyes, these tones are really going to bring out the green. I mean, these purples mixed together, oh my gosh. I love how this turned out. This is so pretty if you like purples. I am curious to try this again and not go so much with a purpley vibe and use some of these other corally colors and the gray greens over here. I kind of want to do that tomorrow and see what kind of look we come up with. But I mean, this is beautiful, you guys. Do I think you like have to go out and buy it? No, no one needs an eyeshadow palette. I mean, honestly, this is not going to be like an everyday palette for me, but I love the color story of this. I do think that this shade Groove and this shade Swing, so these two darker purples, they weren't super difficult to blend out, but they definitely weren't really, really easy to blend. It definitely took a little bit of work, and I kind of had to go back a few times and go over everything. And what really helped was using some of those shimmers, like this Hello shade and the Glitz shade right here, and the shade in the middle, Psychedelic, and kind of blending those into these darker shades out here, and that kind of helped to blend everything together, because otherwise when I went in with those two dark purples, it looked a little stark when you probably saw it in the earlier clip, but like you can see, they blend. You just have to work with them a little bit, and honestly, that's just kind of the nature of purple eyeshadows. Most purples that you work with, very deep, more intense purples, that's kind of part of it. They're very pigmented and you just kind of have to work with them a little bit. So that would be the one thing that I would say, but I think the palette is beautiful. I love this purple eye look. So that's going to be it for this look, and I will see you guys tomorrow and we'll do look number 2. Hi everyone. This is actually the second time I have filmed my second look. I filmed yesterday. I filmed the second eyeshadow look with this palette, and something happened with the footage and the audio. I don't know, but it was all wrong. So we're going to do it again today, but what I will say is something that I noticed yesterday when I did the second look is it looked very similar to the first one. We're going to try it again and I'll see if I can make it look a little bit different, but that's kind of one of my main thoughts on this palette so far is the colors are beautiful, but I'm not sure how much versatility in terms of different eye looks you can make comes with this palette. To me, from what I've seen, it's a very monochromatic palette, but we're gonna try it again today. So what I was wanting to do was I wanted to use more of these corally colors, more of these shades, not so much the purples over here. I am first gonna go in with the nude mauve shade right here, which this shade is very, very cool toned. I almost feel like this shade, even though it's kind of the transition in the palette, it's kind of has a purpley undertone as well, especially if you pair it with anything purple. So that could be one of the reasons why the looks are very similar, because I use this same color first on both sides. Now that we have nude mauve down, I'm going to take this shade in the corner. So we're going to go in with Vivian, and one thing I will say is I'm not an expert when it comes to the different finishes on Natasha palettes, but I know that a good many of the colors in here are her cream to powder formula, and this is one of them. And honestly, this shade I can't really make up my mind with. It's pretty, but you don't get a lot of color really at all. So it's kind of a good, I think, shade to blend in with your transition color. Something else I'm going to try to do is make this shadow look a little more rounded and not so winged out. I have a tendency to do like the wing shape just because of my eyes. I feel like the way my eyes are shaped, and they're pretty hooded, I always tend to kind of pull the shadow out and make that winged look, which I like, but I kind of want to see if I can keep it a little more rounded today, so we'll see. Okay, now I'm going to go in with this shade, which I believe this is another cream to powder. It's Go-Go right here. Now this shade looks like it should be a little more of like a peachy corally color. When I applied it the other day, it still kind of turned a little bit purple on me. I don't know if it was the colors I had underneath or what, but when you blend, or when I blended this in kind of on this outer corner area and blended up, it turned kind of purple, and I'm guessing it's because it mixed with the colors underneath and turned that mauvey purple shade. Okay, so there it is. So to me, again, it turns kind of purpley. It doesn't keep that corally color that it looks like it should, because this is the swatch. Yeah, so this is how the color swatches. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just from that nude mauve shade underneath. I don't know, but the same thing happened yesterday when I did this. I just felt like it looked very purpley. So I'm going to mix, or I'm going to try the other side with a different brush, because then I was like, well, maybe I didn't clean my brushes off well enough and they still had some of that purple tone on there, which could be the case because purple can kind of stain, in my opinion, sometimes. So I'm going to apply it over here, and this is a clean eyeshadow brush. So that side might look a tiny less purpley, but I honestly think they look pretty similar. Now I want to take this shade. So this is Amara in the corner over here. And again, this looks like it should be reddish brown almost. I mean, it looks, I don't know, it looks like a brick color. But on the eyes yesterday, it did not look that way. It looked more purple. So let me show you. So I'm just gonna pack this kind of in this outer corner. And see that? So that shade that I just added swatches like this right there, which honestly, I guess it does look a little purple there, but in the palette, I feel like it doesn't look purple. It looks more of like a reddish color. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like something with, I guess how I'm applying them or combining them, they are all turning this purple color, which is fine if you like purple, which I do, but just something to note if you were curious. All right, now I'm gonna take a little bit of Patty, which is next to Go-Go. Kind of a similar tone, but this one is a shimmer, or a metallic, I think is what she calls it. And for this, I'm gonna kind of tap it on kind of the center portion of my lid and just kind of tap around in a circle. All right, now I'm going back in with my fluffy blending brush. This is BK Beauty 201, and I'm just kind of blend all around. All right, and then what I want to do is I want to take the shade Jude, which is right here. This shade is very interesting. When I first looked at it in the pan, I thought it was more of like a green, but it almost has like a silvery taupe kind of shift to it too. So I'm gonna take this and I'm basically gonna apply this on almost all of the lid. I'm just leaving a little bit in the inner corner bare, but I'm just kind of tapping this lightly. That shade is beautiful. I love that. Yeah, that shade is so pretty. I feel like if you paired that shade Jude with something green, like an olive green, which I honestly wish there was an olive green in this palette. I thought at first that maybe this Opart shade right here was kind of an olivey green, but it's really not. It looks more of a brown on your eyes. I wish there was like a dark khaki green in this palette. I feel like that with Jude would be so pretty, but I have heard a few people say that she's going to be coming out with a more green toned palette, which if she does, oh my gosh, I will be first in line to buy it because I love greens and I feel like you just don't get green eyeshadows in a lot of palettes. Okay, and now what I want to do is I think I'm going to mix the shade Hello right here and Glitz, which is in the corner. And I'm going to use my finger and I'm just going to tap once into both shades. And I'm going to tap that in on the inner corner here. Okay, one last thing I'm going to try real quickly is I'm going to take some MAC Fix Plus and I'm spraying an angled brush and I'm going to try to use that dark brown, the Opart, this shade right here. And we're going to see if I can line my lash line with this. Okay, so you can. It's not super pigmented. Let me go in with a little bit more. So I'm trying to create like a little wing with that, which it did work actually. Okay, so the palette does tell you, I always forget to look at these things. On the back, it does tell you if it's what type of shadow, if it's a duochrome, a cream to powder, a matte, or a, is that it? The shade in the center has a K next to it, psychedelic. I don't know what that means. I think that might be like a topper shade, but so yeah, this Opart shade that I'm using is a cream to powder. And it does work. It's just a little different than using a regular eyeshadow to do something like this. Okay, now that I've got my wings about as good as they're gonna get, I think I'm gonna go back into the very first shade we used, which was Nude Mauve. And I'm using a BK Beauty 202 brush, so it's a little tapered crease brush. And I'm gonna go back, keeping my eye open over where we applied it to begin with. So for me, it's a little bit above where my actual crease is, because if I go in where the actual crease is, when I open my eye, it'll disappear. And I'm just gonna kind of go over the edges one more time just to make sure everything is nice and blended together. And I think for right now, that's all I'm gonna do on the eyes. So I'm gonna finish the rest of my face, and then I'll come back and we'll do the lower lash line and finish up this look. Okay, for the lower lash line, I think I'm gonna mix the shade Go Go and Patty. So the cream to powder, and then the, what is Patty? Oh, Patty is also a cream to powder. They're both cream to powders. So I'm gonna take a little bit of both, and I'm gonna apply this on my lower lash line. All right, then I'm gonna take the Opart shade, which is that dark brown. And I'm taking like the tiniest bit, like I'm barely touching this color. And I'm gonna take just a little bit of that on the outer lower lash line, just to kind of connect up to where we put that little wing shape with that color. I'm barely touching it at all. I'm gonna take Mod, which is this shade here. It is a matte, and it's not white, it's almost an off-white with a little bit of, I think, kind of a pinky undertone to it. And I'm just gonna tap this on my inner corner. I think it's kind of interesting to do a matte shadow highlight in the inner corner. I feel like most of the time what you see is a shimmery inner corner highlight. All right, let me put on my mascara and my lip, and then I'll come back and we will see the finished look. Okay, so I am finished with my makeup, and this is the second eye look. So I will say this looks a little different than when I did it yesterday, so I'm glad that I had to redo it. But if you see, hopefully it comes off on camera, these colors still look very purple. They look very mauve. Now, the look the first look that you saw, to me looked more of like this tone of purple, this swing shade. It was very, very purple. This is more of like a cranberry mauve-y kind of purple. So different, but my main takeaway on this palette is I would only recommend getting this if you love purple eyeshadow and you love those cranberry mauve, rose, purple undertones, because from just using this palette a few times, you're gonna get very similar looks with it. Now, depending on how you're applying it, like if you're doing something like this versus like a cut crease, maybe, obviously it's gonna look a little bit different in terms of like the eyeshadow shape, but the colors to me all blend together to this very similar purpley tone. So that is what I would say about the palette. If you love purples, then absolutely I would recommend this. I think it's beautiful. The palette is stunning. I mean, it really truly is. Look at the colors. But if you're wanting something super versatile, I would not go with this. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like even in the promo photos that I've seen on the Natasha Denona Instagram and just things I've seen in general, most of the looks look very similar. They do have some differences. They're not identical, but they all have this same kind of tone to them. So that's my one, I guess you could say, con, if you consider that to be a con. I personally love it because I love purples. I think if you have green eyes, hazel eyes, these colors on you, oh, so pretty. But I also think purple is one of the colors that looks good on all eye colors. That's just my personal opinion, but I think if you're gonna go for a colorful palette, I think purple is a great way to go. Thank you so much for watching. I know a lot of people have also compared this to the Love palette by her. I do not have the Love palette. That one is a little too vibrant for me. That one is very, there's nothing muted about that palette. It's very stark looking. So if you like more vibrant, bold colors and you like a similar kind of theme to this, I would go with the Love palette. But I don't personally have that one. If you like something more wearable, more slightly muted, purple undertones, you would love this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about look 1 and look 2. Do you like one better than the other? I personally probably prefer this one. I love the purple of the first look, but I don't know, something about the kind of toned down purple slightly I really like. Also really love this lip combo. I know this video is not about the lip combo, but I'm going to tell you what it is. It's Charlotte Tilbury Love Trap Lip Cheat and one of her new lipsticks. This is Supermodel from the Super Nudes collection that just came out. And then on top of that, I have the Lawless gloss in Daisy Pink, and I love it. I think this color looks really good with this eye look. In case you're wondering, that's what's on my lips. I will link everything in the description box. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I post 3 videos a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also, make sure to go follow me on Instagram at simply.blair and TikTok simply.blair01. I will see you guys in my next video. Remember, simply be you. Bye.